Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Hey everybody, welcome to Paranormal Karen. And today we're doing a mishmash, and I hope this sounds okay. I'm actually in a hotel room, and I forgot my really good microphones, but probably Mike, my producer, is going to fix this and it'll sound okay. But I wanted to tape this tonight. I'm like... I keep forgetting, like, you can tape it in 3 different times, Karen, but I'm going to tell you where I am today. So today I am in Wenatchee, Washington, and it is really beautiful. And it's one of these, it's the Apple capital is what they say. So this is, I would say, my first road gig, that's actually kicking off the year. By the time you guys hear this, I will probably be in Cape Cod, working at Tin Pan Alley. And please come see me if you're in Massachusetts or in the Cape Cod area, or you know anyone there. Tell them to come see me, because I'm supposed to do 3 months there. I'm super excited. Courage loves the beach. He's getting checked for heartworm so that I can give him his stuff to keep the fleas off of him. And yeah, I'm a little nervous because of COVID. You always hope that it's going to go on for the amount of time. But basically, here's what happened. I'm in Wenatchee. I think next week I'm in in 2 weeks I'm in Arcadia. And then I go off to, when you're hearing this, to Cape Cod. So here's the reason I jumped on this and wanted to tape it. First of all, I didn't start out this podcast being very conspiracy, and now I feel like I'm over the top, and I'm definitely not a QAnon person, but let me tell you, this day of flying, I am convinced that so much nefarious stuff has gone on while we were in lockdown. It's amazing. And I'm getting to be the kind of person that's like, don't go to sleep. Don't go to sleep, people. I am, I'm lefty left. Most of you know that from listening to the podcast. But I don't agree with the Democrats anymore. The more independent news that I'm listening to, and of course my favorite on YouTube is a guy named Jimmy Dore. He's a friend of mine, but he is so good at unearthing the truth that actually, whereas before I was like, no, I hate Trump, nothing about Trump. I still hate the man Trump. Or I shouldn't say hate, but I find him disgusting. But now it's getting to be a little more than a broken clock. There were a couple of things that his administration had right, and there's a lot of things that the Biden administration is doing that are worse. So for everybody, I don't get political, and I'm not going to get political on this other than anti-government. But right now, I'm like one of those people that's sort of lost in the middle. Like, what do we do? Where do we go? And that's why I like Jimmy's show. But I have to tell you, you can't just show that to everyone. Is really happy. Like, oh, Biden's in, we're good. And I'm almost the opposite. I'm almost like, no. I heard this twice. I heard this from the guy at the rental car place. And I actually heard this on Jimmy's show, because that's where I get all my news from, rental car customer service people, and from Jimmy Dore. And the guy at the rental car place in Seattle said, I grew up in a third world country, and if you are not fighting or protesting all the time, they are taking you. And I think he's right. And here's where I'm going with all of this, which I jumped right in. I didn't even say hello. I didn't even plug my dates. I'm sorry about that. And it really ends with a good story where Courage shit on the floor of a Walmart. So that, stay to the end. That's worth all of it. So this is the first gig. It's in Wenatchee, Washington. And, I'm out of practice. I used to fly every other week. Minimum every other week. And I used to go home to my parents in New York State every other month. So I was flying all the time. So now with COVID, I've been home, a year and a half? I think I flew twice in there, maybe? So it was one of these where I'm kind of out of practice and I had to get up really early and I was at the last minute remembering things to pack and I was trying to make sure Courage didn't drink too much water. Very simple flights from Southwest, go Burbank to Denver, 2 hours in Denver, Denver to Seattle, then 2.5 hour drive here. So I get to the airport and the first part starts out fairly smooth. But I remember a couple of days ago, my friend Julie Kidd posted that she had flown and she got to the Seattle airport. And this is really awful and gross, but she was one of those that was flagged to get a pat down. And the woman said to her, I have to put my hand down your butt crack. And I apologize, you guys. I know this is gross, but this is completely true. And she was like, what? And the woman said, well, we can do it out here or we can do it in the little room. So of course she was like, yeah, we're doing this in the little room. And it was really upsetting to her. In fact, she cried. It was like awful. But I was like, what is that about? And she said it was the Seattle airport. So we'll find out if on the way flying home that happens to me. And if it does, I'm going to say, can I film it? And it will go viral. And then I will have many young boyfriends. But what is that about? Even the way the woman said it, like that sounded awful, didn't it? So that was my first thinking that something's not right here. So I get to the airport and like I said, I've been flying all my life. Courage has been with me for 17 years. And here's the thing. He doesn't fly free anymore. He used to. Courage is really trained as a real service dog, but no one ever believed me because he was like, he's 8 pounds. So now that they got mad at all the people that had emotional assist animals, I can't find the lady that trained him. I can't find the certification. That was 17 years ago. I don't have all this. 17 years ago, I was the only person on the plane with a dog, a service dog, no less. And now I'm like, okay, so I got to pay for him. So now if you come to see my show, you will see Courage on stage. He will be known as the artist formerly known as Courage, currently going with the name Tax Deduction, because I'm bringing him on stage so I can write him off, because now I got to pay for airline tickets. I got to pay for hotels. All this stuff was taken away, right before COVID. Then it came out. No. So as I'm going through security, I have special food for him, which even the company that makes it, they're called Just Food for Dogs in LA. They pack it special so that you can take it on a plane. I don't know if it's hermetically sealed or whatever it is. That might be more of a spaceship that's hermetically sealed, maybe not dog food. But it's made that you can take it. I've never had a problem. And I took it through security and they flagged it. And they pulled it out. And they said, well, can we open it? And I said, you know what? Don't worry about opening it. Because if you open it, I can't take it. It's going to go bad. You can just throw it out. And let me say, Burbank TSA, kudos to you. The guy looked at it 3 or 4 times, and then he looked at me. And thank God, I'm really rambling here, but this is really how my whole day went. Thank God I have this wonderful person that listens to my podcast that's making clothes for me because I don't know how to dress myself. And she made this beautiful, tight, purple, silky shirt for me. And she said, I want you to think about these clothes that you wear. This is a great tip for anyone. She said, I want you to think about the clothes that you wear. And I want you to keep a little book and write down who said what to you when you were wearing that outfit. And turns out the little tight purple shirt she made me gets Courage's dog food through security, because the guy, he was like really nice about it. And then he called in his supervisor and they looked it over and they were like, meh, go ahead. And I was so grateful that they did. Although I think we lost Courage's little red coat because they were kind of unpacking my stuff. And now I can't find Courage's little coat, which makes me very sad because my mom made it for him. And another side note, I know we're taking a lot of side notes on this story, but I was talking to Sonia, Sonia, the animal communicator, my best buddy, and her husband, Dave, who is just the greatest guy in the world. And I'm talking to them through the car phone, and I go, and I think they took Courage's little coat. Full on, complete rage. David is like, I can't believe they took Courage's little red coat. I know, he doesn't know what coat that is, but I thought that's a team player. Who wouldn't be mad that they took Courage's little red coat? And I think the guy forgot it, so I'll check for it on the way there. So there's the first flag, is that the food it's a problem now. Okay. So then the second thing is when I get to the gate, I don't have this suitcase, but they make this announcement and they say, hey, if you own one of those suitcases, some of you might have them. There was a really expensive one. It was like a $250 suitcase that came out one time. And it was they advertised on a lot of podcasts. And the thing about it was perfect. It had all these compartments and all this stuff. And it also had a charger in it. So if your phone wasn't charged, you could just plug your phone into your suitcase. And the announcement comes out and they say, hey, if you have a suitcase charger, you got to take out the battery, which I don't think that can be easy, or bring your suitcase up. And I thought, all right, what's that rule? That's a new rule that no one heard about, that you can't have a charger on your suitcase. So there is number 2. So now I'm really paranoid because I get to Denver and I have like 2 hours, and Courage is 17. He's like an old man with a prostate problem. And we have this flying thing down, where if there was, I used to know Southwest so well. And if there was an hour between flights, I could run off the flight with my TSA pre-check, take him to the doggy bathroom place, and then run back in. Sometimes it literally took me 10 minutes to run out of the airport, let him go to the bathroom, and run him back in. And we go to Denver. It's cold. Okay, we're both not used to this. We're not used to our flying schedule. And so we had 2 hours. I sat there for an hour taking him out and then bringing him back in because it was cold. In fact, that reminds me, I'm not moving to Denver. I keep thinking I'm going to have to move out of LA, but after being in the cold in Denver and then being here in Wenatchee, which, by the way, Washington State is unbelievably beautiful, but it has that same thing. I always go, I could live here. Every town I go to, I could live here. And then right around 9:00, everything gets quiet and I go, never going to live here. Never could live here, because I need a city that's alive at night. But anyways, so Courage decides he's not going to the bathroom in Denver. Like I said, I sat there for an hour, inside 10 minutes, outside 5, won't go to the bathroom. So now I'm freaking out because we leave LA at like 6:30 and we're not going to get to Seattle until 3:20. But apparently he's okay with this. So we go back in. He's not going to go to the bathroom. We go back in. We have lunch. And then we go to get on the plane. And everyone is like, what is wrong with security? Why are they treating us like it's the day after 9/11? Like the security was just going through everyone's stuff. And when I came back in Denver, I took the dog food out and put it, instead of having it in the suitcase and flagging it, I put it on the tray and they let it through. They all stopped and stared at it for 10 minutes, but they let it through. So his dog food got here fine. But the other thing, everyone was all freaked out and everyone kept saying to me, oh, I used to bring my dog. Did you have to pay for him? And I was like, yeah, I did have to pay for a little tax deduction, but I'll get it back. And no one understood what I was talking about, but that's all right. So the other thing that has happened, and this is very strange, I fly with Southwest only, and I don't mind how long their flights are because, like I said, I take Courage out. So when COVID hit, I had about $2,000 worth of credit with Southwest. I used to sing their praises all the time because what they would do is you could buy a flight with them, and then if you had to cancel, you could cancel like up to an hour before, and you would have that credit for a year. But COVID closed down for a year. So I had about $2,000 worth of credit with them, and it's starting to expire. And I called and I was like, hey, are you guys going to extend that? And the answer was, we've been generous enough. Like, that was literally what the agent told me on the phone. And I was so angry because it's like, I go through about $15,000 to $20,000 a year just on airline tickets with Southwest. I have my credit card with them. I love them so much. And I was so angry that they had done that. And then I called, and they have some weird system where you can get it back, but you got to call I don't know. It'll work out fine. It's all right. It's another tax deduction. It's another courage. That's what I'll call it. But all these little things, especially what's going on in the airport, this is what I'm noticing. Nobody's paying attention. All of a sudden, these rules are in place with no resistance. And I know we probably we haven't really been able to have resistance against the TSA. But I used to know everything that was going on. I used to know when you walked in and they had a change. I used to know when I could tell when the alert was up, when somebody was getting some sort of a scare at the airport by the way I went through security. But now all these rules are suddenly in place. The suitcase, we're going to reach down your pants, all this stuff. And I don't know. Does anybody? Please email me if you heard about any of this. I mean, I know the dog thing came out in the news, which was they didn't want the emotional assist dogs anymore because people were bringing on peacocks and elephants and tigers, and that put a limit on it. But they cut out all dogs, and now I just think I'm not going to fly anymore. I have a weird vibe right now about how much my career is changing. Like I said, I used to spend, 20, 30 weeks a year on the road. And then the weeks I wasn't on the road, I would read tarot. And now, COVID, I went full-time tarot. And I really like that. And I was like, I'll just work whatever gigs I choose. But this flying today was so hard. And then the best part, I get home, I get off the plane, we're in Seattle, Courage is still sniffing around, won't go to the bathroom. I take him, we finally get the rental car, stop at a gas station, I'm walking around, he won't go to the bathroom. Oh, he did, he peed. And then I was like, is that all you're doing? So then we go into Walmart, and I'm carrying him under my arm because he's a little guy. And he's kicking me. So right there in the potato chip aisle, I put him down. I said, that's fine. And he shit in Walmart and then turned around and looked me right in the eye like, that's on you. That's on you because you didn't let me walk around more, which I let him walk around all day. So anyways, that was my big story. But here's the thing. I'm really curious about two things. I want to know, have any of you guys email me if you have experienced anything like this, whether it's flying, whether it's going back to work, or anything having to do with the government, where all of a sudden there are rules in place that weren't there before COVID. I think that they are more, here's the thing. I don't think COVID is a hoax. I think it's a disease and a lot of people, or it's a flu or it's a virus and a lot of people die. But I'm watching everyone from Bill Maher to even my friend Jimmy playing. He has a video about Dr. Fauci that if you can, check it out. Jimmy Dore, Dore, The Jimmy Dore Show. Just the lies that Dr. Fauci has told. And I was sitting next to someone on the airplane, and I don't want to say their job, but they had a government job, a very high up government job. And I talked to this person for a very long time, and I was saying how something's really wrong. Okay. First of all, I don't believe Johnson & Johnson paused that vaccine for 6 women because they're still putting out that powder that was found to cause cancer in millions of women. So something is wrong. Something's going very wrong here. And the woman that worked for the government, she said there's another problem with how they're counting the cases. And she knew someone who had COVID, and something happened that the person survived. The person needed to take the COVID test 3 times, and they counted 3 times the person came up positive, and she said that counts as 3 COVID cases. So if you take 2 COVID tests within a week and they both come out positive, they're counting that as 2 cases, not as one person having 1 case of COVID. And it's getting, I really love that, especially somebody like Bill Maher coming out and going, wait a minute, why are you playing politics with my health care? So there's a lot of questions. I've always had a lot of questions, but it's not a hoax. Something's going on here. So if any of you have either noticed rules that are in place now that we weren't told about, or, I know that we don't see the government, that we see what the news shows us. So a lot of times this happens, laws pass or things happen that we're not totally aware about. But I feel like I'm done. I think I'm done flying. And if they're going to put in some sort of weird vaccine passport, I don't know if you get the vaccine or you don't get the vaccine. The vaccine passport is an enormous issue. It's an issue of privacy. It's you know what? I actually should probably, I'm going to do some research on that and get you some facts and figures on that, because everyone should be against the vaccine passport. That's an intrusion of privacy, and it's going to go into those healthcare records that people are trying to, I'll just leave that there. Maybe that'll be the other half of this podcast. I don't know. I just had to spew out what happened as I'm flying, because like I said, I know my career is taking a change, and I'm almost wondering if it's just time to stay home, read tarot full time, work on several one-woman shows, or they're stand-up comedy, but they're sort of have a point to them, because I know some big change is coming up for me, but I don't know what it is. And after today, I don't think it has anything to do with flying or being on the road. But anyways, let's take a break, and then I'll come back in another time and space. Hey, everybody, just a quick update. I will not be at Tin Pan Alley in Cape Cod, at least not in the beginning of June. So keep your fingers crossed that I can change that announcement, or maybe even next year you'll see me there. But right now, that date has been postponed. I am restarting my psychic stand-up show at Flappers the 4th Thursday of every month, which is very exciting. And also, if you're in the LA area, you can see me headlining there July 24th. I'll keep you updated on that. Other than that, you can go to my website, karenrontowski.com or paranormalkaren.com, and book a reading or check out my videos. And hey, don't be afraid to drop me an email. I love to hear from you guys. Maybe suggest a guest, maybe tell me your favorite guest, maybe tell me to shut up. Either way, karenrontowski.com. Let's get back to the podcast. Hey, everybody. So I want to tell you how a smarter person would do their podcast, that's not me, is I did talk to a friend who said the battery thing, my battery suitcase at the gate conspiracy has been in there for a while. So I had never heard it. I've never heard anyone announce that. So, but that is wrong. And someone that did a really great job on their podcast would go back and take that out, but I won't. We're just going to keep going. We're going to keep rolling right over it. But it was interesting because after I liked that first segment, so I'm leaving it. And I'm correcting the misinformation now. But as you know, I'm not a doctor or a lawyer, so sometimes I say things that are off. But I immediately turned on the TV in this hotel room. I'm up in Wenatchee, Washington, having a blast. Oh my God. And saw this story on the news. Republicans have introduced 81 anti-protest laws in 34 states just this year. And I was like, well, there it is. And this is why, I wasn't as verbal, but I think it's time to get that way, whether it's calling your congressmen or senators or somehow getting active, because this is the type of thing, when you hear this, you'll be like, what? It's the type of thing that they're chipping away. We don't see what they're trying to get to in the middle of the circle. All we see are separate pieces around the circle being chipped away. And so we not seeing the big picture of what they want. That's the part where you have to watch these little bits and pieces, like this conspiracy here, or that person saying that over there, or why are they doing this over here? And it's why you have to speak up, even when it's like, yeah, that doesn't apply to me, or that doesn't matter. I know I would love to have Dr. Naomi Wolf on to talk about the vaccine passport. I think I'm going to reach out to her and see. This is all, the thing that's interesting is I don't think they're going to make it with that. So I kind of like this idea. Every once in a while, I feel better. Like we don't have Big Brother's not doing as well as we thought. Because here's the thing. Last night, I'm at this show in Wenatchee, Washington, great crowd. And I'm working with this great comic, Rob Little, and he's from Florida. And he makes a joke. He says, we don't have coronavirus there. Kind of like, because they actually did some things that worked out right there. They have someone there that reads all their medical stuff. If you watch what Bill Maher talked about, and this crowd applauded. Like that was the biggest applause break of the night, was him saying, we don't have coronavirus there. And it was as though people are done. People are done with the whatever, masks, vaccines, whatever. And they're ready to go. I guess death be what it is, but I will say this is not, I do not believe that it's a hoax, but I do believe they're giving us the wrong numbers. That's what the lady on the plane said to me. And the more I look at it, the death is, I think, 1%, under 1%. And it is horrible. So I'm not taking anything away from that. But anyways, I think people are starting to, I don't think it's going to be as easy for them to pull off this stuff. But this right here makes me very nervous. So I'm going to read you this article that is from truthout.org, which I am not that familiar with, but I read through this article and I thought they did a good job with it. And it matches with all this stuff that I've been seeing on the news, my sister is the big, and Sister Sue is coming on. We got your stories. You guys did great. And she's getting ready to come on. We just haven't had time to tape it. But she's the one that's always about, what's your source? What's your source? And I'm always like, it's Alien Fiesta is my source. That's the website I went to for all my news. Or, Reptilians Are Us. That's where, and she's like, that's not a real news source. But I do always end up, I don't know if I believe the regular news sources now. So we're taking a shot at truthout.org. All right. As protests have rallied across the U.S. over the past year against police-penetrated violence and brutality, Republicans in state legislatures have been busy cooking up anti-protest laws. Reporting has found that just in 2021 legislative session, Republicans have introduced 81 bills in 34 states aiming at suppressing suppressing protests. This is double the number of anti-protest laws that have been filed in any other year. Eli Page, I hope I'm saying that right, senior legal advisor at the International Center for Not-for-Profit Law, which tracks protest laws, told the New York Times many of the bills are a direct attack on the right to protest, as set by the First Amendment. The bills range from criminalizing protests to making it easier for people to harm protesters without consequence. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on Monday signed a bill into law that grants protections for people who drive their car into a protesting crowd, potentially injuring the protester and penalizing those participating in the uprising. I just want to say, very interesting that they use the word uprising. The penalties are exceedingly harsh. The bill makes aggravated rioting and blocking traffic on a highway a felony. Those convicted of a felony in Florida get their voting rights taken away. Many other states like Oregon, Arizona, and Alabama are also considering bills seeking harsher penalties for those who block traffic as part of a protest. Republican lawyers in Oklahoma and Iowa have passed similar protections for drivers who strike and harm protesters. In Alabama, legislators are considering a bill that allows people to kill anyone on their property as long as they reasonably believe that that person might attempt to trespass. Other bills seek to take rights away from the protesters in ways other than those outlined in the Florida bill. In Minnesota, where last year's protests against George Floyd's murder originated, the GOP is trying to make it so that those convicted on protest-related charges are ineligible for many types of government programs, like housing assistance, food stamps, and student loans, programs on which many poor residents and students rely. Yeah, that's true. And yet other bills are focused on labeling protesters or protests as negative sounding terms like terrorists or riots. Yeah, you could see that up there when they said, whatever. I lost my place. I have to say one thing. As a dyslexic person, I think I'm doing really well. I practiced this, and I think I sound pretty good. Okay. Several bills, like the one in Alabama and Georgia, seek to expand the definition of riot or unlawful assembly and seek harsh penalties for those convicted of protest-related charges. The anti-protest bills seek to worsen a system that already allows for protesters, especially those on the left, to be treated harshly, as countless videos and activists' accounts showed during last summer's protests. They are almost undoubtedly filed as backlash to those protests, which both the right and center painted as violent, despite the fact that it was a police officer who started and perpetuated the violence. The bills, if passed into law, have the potential to seriously harm Black Lives Matter movement that activists have painstakingly uplifted and fought for through blood, sweat, and tears over the years. As activists and progressives have called for fundamental systematic change in the face of police perpetrated murders, Republicans are seeking to stifle the government movement, which threatens their power. The new Florida anti-protest law that penalizes protesters puts a formidable obstacle in the path to this kind of some systematic change by subverting the movements that have been the principal catalyst for change, explains Barbara Ransby for Truth Out. It is unimaginable that such a law could be fairly enforced. Conceivably, a political argument on a street corner could be cause for arrest. If this is not censorship, I don't know what is. Many have noted that the spirit of these bills is contrary to the First Amendment's right of free speech and assembly. You have just declared war on the First Amendment in the state of Florida. And Democratic Florida State Senator Chevron Jones, after DeSantis signed the anti-protest bill. There is also a glaring double standard in what issues are okay to protest about in the Republicans' eyes and what types of crowds Republicans consider dangerous. While Republicans spew lies about Black Lives Matter protests for racial justice throughout last year, they downplayed the actual violence on display from supporters of former President Donald Trump on January 6th. I thought that was a great article. And again, I'm going to say it. I'm against all of them. We need a third party and we need it now. But I feel, again, send me the little chipping away at rights that you're seeing on your end. I just think we're in trouble here. I will say, I do kind of love the apathy. So whether you're getting the vaccine or you're not, or whatever I tend to take a survey on this to find out who's taking it and who's not. And I feel like the passport is a totally different thing. And I feel like so many people are so apathetic and so sick of everything right now that passport is going to fail. They're not going to sign up for the app or whatever, but it should fail because it's not about having the vaccine or, you could say it's the my body, my choice argument, but I think it's going to fail because of American apathy. So good for lazy Americans. We're going to be right back. I have the other comic I'm working with here. He has a wonderful podcast. We're going to do a little crossover. And I think you're really going to enjoy it. All right, folks, we'll be right back.
Psychic teas, spelled with a Z, are scrumptious herbal combinations with antiviral and anti-inflammatory properties. Without sugar or caffeine, psychic teas won't mess with any medications and are designed by a naturopathic doctor. Many testify to positive results. Detox chakras and psychic tea blends enable bodily functions with superior efficacy, while more love and champagne blends support awareness of subtle joy and bliss. The CBD's teas are magical with myriad healing effects. There are 20 servings per package. A little dab'll do ya, and you can drink it hot or cold. Psychic teas taste so good. Replace coffee, use as a bedtime ritual, or even flavor a meal or dessert. The people behind the product are righteous and kind. Psychic teas will blow your mind. Totally worth the investment. Psychic teas with a Z.com.
All right, everybody. So I taped the last two parts of this. Mm-hmm. They won't know. The people don't even need to know this, but they know how sloppy my podcast is. So,
we're just doing whatever we want.
So I hit a jackpot. Guy I'm working with, Jeremiah Coughlan from Portland. So funny. Oh. So funny. First start, where can they find you?
Just at Jeremiah Coughlin is my Instagram. That's mostly where I post stuff. And then, the podcast. You can listen to the podcast.
And the reason he's on is because his podcast, Car Alarm? Wow, it's been so quiet. That's why I thought it was okay that I didn't have my fancy mics. Your podcast is called Fear and Loathing in Tacoma.
Yes.
And it's about people doing mushrooms, right?
Yeah, so I interview comics and rock stars and just generally interesting people about doing psychedelics in general. We just had a very interesting story about a kid being dosed with PCP when he was a young man.
Oh, my God.
Which may or may not have been true. I don't know. A couple people have been like, this story sounds like bullshit. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, I kind of thought so too, but I didn't want to call him out.
And by the way, just because some of you thought there was an EVP a few minutes ago, Courage was coughing. He made a noise. Sometimes people email me, this is EVP. No, you know what?
Oh, yeah.
They are in my house. I get all kinds of EVPs on these. There's always somebody else's voice coming in and saying something because my house is...
Wow. Well, this is an old hotel. Okay.
There's
some spookiness going on here.
There is, and I kind of want to dedicate this issue to, this is a very odd story that I'm just going to use one first name. And the lady's name is Kim, and she was this fabulous psychic medium from Utah, and I knew her. And I get on the plane to come here, and there's a weird chill. I'm not really a medium, I'm working on it, but there's a weird chill you get when something is around. And on the airplane, my right leg, only my right leg had it. Like when I'm reading tarot, I get this chill that goes up my body. When I'm like, just keep talking, you're on this is really going in the right direction, get off the cards and just keep talking. Okay. So I was like, who is here? I kept saying, who is here? And then I got a call.
Out loud on the plane?
Yes.
You're just sitting in the middle seat.
Here?
Who is here? Who is here? The pilot's like, Karen and aisle 32, we're all here. Everyone's accounted for. We're going to take off. Who's here, though?
So
This is internal dialogue.
This is internal dialogue.
Who's here?
Because I know there's a spirit or something. Something's because why wouldn't I get it on both legs? So,
On the plane, though.
On the plane.
Okay.
So I get a call from her.
Okay.
And I got a message, and it's not from her, it's from her daughter. And she has had something that she ended up on life support like a couple days ago.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know the person. I'm going to keep this vague because it might be touchy.
Yeah.
So I didn't know the person's daughter, and she was like, I need to know, is my mom okay, and stuff like that. So
she was looking for confirmation from you. Okay.
And she was kind of like, because I don't know you, and I need a neutral person. And it was really, really quite moving, and I was crying when it was done, and that feeling left as soon as I got done talking, because I was like, so then when you said this is an old hotel, for a while after that, I was like, is everybody going to come around now? But I don't think this one is as haunted. There's like 2 or 3 down the street. There's one thing down there called the Mason Building.
Yeah, just this block is old brick. I mean, and this is an old, I don't know. I think this is a cool town, though. I grew up less than 2 hours from here, and we used to make fun of this place. And now that I come here, just the fact you're in this cool little valley, I was like, God, why don't people live here?
Right.
Have you ever been to Bend, Oregon? That's a very similar sort of climate. Mm-hmm. And this is a little further north, and maybe it might be a little colder here.
Or south, or it's more east, right? East.
Well, yeah, and we're kind of closer to Canada.
Yeah,
so
they got the Canadian flag out here on the hotel.
I love it when they do that. It's ooh, we're international. we have the Canadian and the U.S. and the Washington State flag.
Well, this has to be old. Even the name Wenatchee, it has to be. Must have rolled over some Indians, crushed some. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But it was very funny because I turned on my Bumble, and its location.
Oh, yeah.
And first guy was very handsome. I thought it was still in L.A. And he was funny, and then I was like, God damn it. But anyways.
It was a ghost?
No, that would have been even better. He could go with me. And I think he was a person with a job. I think he was real. So on the plane, it was internal dialogue. Here, it was an actual person.
Oh, okay.
But first of all, so I love your podcast. I love your podcast idea, I would say, because I haven't heard it yet.
Sure. No, we have a lot of fun. And it just it seemed like no one was telling these stories. And as someone who loves talking to comics, every comic has everybody goes to Joshua Tree or whatever, right? Everybody does mushrooms. Everybody's done ayahuasca. Every comic has a story about either when they were in college or, young or recent or whatever. And so I was like, let's just talk about it. And so the Fear and Loathing in Tacoma is the origin story of that is when I was in high school. Around here, me and 5 of my friends drove from Tri-Cities, where I'm from, to Tacoma, which is a 4-hour drive, to go to a girls' high school basketball tournament. And we all took acid in the van and got pulled over, and it became this whole school kind of scandal. It wasn't we didn't get in a lot of trouble, but we got in some trouble. And we had already dubbed it Fear and Loathing in Tacoma. This was right when the Hunter S. Thompson Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas was becoming a movie. And so it was we were oh, we're gonzo journalists or whatever, right? We're just a bunch of 17-year-old high kids in a van.
But I have a question. So there was the acid and then the basketball tournament. Were those two put together specifically, or were you driving on acid and ended up at a basketball tournament? How did those two don't really mix?
Right. So for us, the whole school was going to the basketball. It was the state. We had the best high school basketball team in the history of the state of Washington.
Female or male?
Yes, female.
See, I played basketball in high school and college.
So good.
I'm
we had
amazed.
Girls go to the WNBA. They were crazy good. They didn't lose a game the whole season. And so for us, as the kids at school that were going to get in a van and do acid, it was just an excuse to not go to school for 3 days. It's if everyone's going to Tacoma, we're going to Tacoma, but we're going to get fucked up the whole time when we go to Tacoma, right?
Perfect.
And then Yeah, and then we sort of showed up at this tournament, and everyone was like, I heard you guys all got arrested last night. And I was like, well, some of us got arrested. So there was like the big punchline of the story is they pull us out of this van, and one of the kids has a sugar cube that still has acid on it in his pocket, and it's kind of like crushed up a little bit, and the cops, they're searching us, and they pull us out of his pocket, and they're like, why do you have sugar cubes in your pocket? Do you have diabetes? And he says, no, it's acid. It's like, you mean you have diabetes? Like, the answer is always yes, I have diabetes. Like, and this, his dad was like our DARE officer. Like, there was a lot of implications to all of us.
That's always how it goes.
Yeah. So
it's always
20 years later, it's like, let's make a podcast. And so I've had a great time just interviewing people about their experiences with it, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
I'm sure. And
we're gonna have you on. It's gonna be great.
I love
we do it over Zoom. It's so easy.
Awesome. And there's a you know what too. Even if people think this, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. Right.
Right.
Just enjoy it, people.
And that's what I said. That's actually literally what I said when someone was like, I don't know if this story adds up, and I was like, it's a good episode. Who cares?
I have so many...
Don't take it so to heart,
Right. I have a lot of paranormal stories that don't add up, as you heard last night. Of things, of other consciousness and stuff. And you and I are both Jessa Reed fans. Friends.
Yeah.
Fans. So we all know there's an element of just go along with me when a story gets told.
Right, yeah.
But I mean, it's... I think my true stories, you couldn't make them up. Because you also to swing it in for my paranormal fans.
Yeah,
I did. I think 2 episodes on Portland tunnels.
Sure. Yeah,
and when Harvey's, which was now it's gone. It was the second owner, I think. Mm-hmm. He opened up. He was getting ready to open up the tunnel. Now, no one had been in this part under the club because the other part was so well traveled.
Yep,
and it was sort of preserved, which you probably know, or everybody probably knows, when an area is used to people coming through on a tour or people are going to stay here, certain entities pull back, go to other places, quiet down, ignore them, and other ones that want attention come forward. So this bottom part was so untapped. And if you go back, I think it was in my first season that I went down, and the guy, very nice, took me, clipped a mic on him, clipped a mic on me, took me all over, gave me the little tour. We're not down there a second. And he goes, you see this area over here? And in the background you hear, help me.
Oh, wow.
Right, on the tape. I think I was down there with him 30 minutes, and we got like 28 EVPs.
Wow.
In that, like, it was Jaws all over the place. So you were doing the tours? You got hired to do the tours?
Yeah, so you're talking about Mike Jones. I get it now.
Yes.
Mike Jones. So, and I worked for the competitor that was Portland Walking Tours, and they do like Epicure food tours and wine tours and all this stuff, but they had like a haunted Portland tour, and we didn't do a lot of underground stuff. Like, we went into a couple basements, and all of the tunnel stuff in Portland is like, the history is kind of convoluted, like the whole Shanghai stuff and that. Like, they were stealing people to put them on boats, but a lot of that, like, they didn't have to, like, trapdoor them or anything. Like that's kind of bullshit. Like,
Courage is snoring again. He snores every time. Well, you know what else, though, is interesting that I didn't realize? Almost every city has underground tunnels.
Right.
I don't know if it's just the water cities or what.
And so Portland, the big thing was getting things from, like, the streets were dirt. Like, it was a real pain in the ass. So a lot of it was getting goods from the river to the city. And it was like, if you think about the logic of it, if you're a business owner in downtown and then you're like I don't know, like, pirate guy's going to come to you and be like, hey, we're going to use your business to steal people. And you'd be like, get out of here. Right? Like, that doesn't add up to me. And so... See,
but you're talking to a conspiracy theorist, and I'm like, I could see Biden and Trump and everybody like, sure, we got extra.
Here's the thing. We'll
build the fence, you ship them out underneath.
With the stealing people, they just did it. Like, the cops would just come get you. Like, and because there was fees, they'd get you drunk, or they'd see you walking down the street, and there'd be a boarding house, and they'd say, hey, you want to come, you can stay here for free. I'll cover everything. We'll get you a job, and then you pay us back when you get your job. Sign this. The dude can't read, signs it, it says, okay, well, now you work on this boat until you can pay us back. And then they take you down to the dock and put you on the boat, and you can't do anything about it.
Wow.
So that's, I mean, it happened, but they didn't need to drug people.
That is how Scientology happens, too.
Well, see, we actually used to walk right by the Scientology building on our tour. So I used to do the ghost tours. I got fired, and I have a joke about how I got fired for being too creative. So the owner of the company came on the tour one time, and he was like, "Oh, I'm going to come on somebody's tour," and I was like, "Sure, come on mine. It would be great." And we'd go into the basement of the Benson Hotel, which is super haunted, and I just like started like kind of doing what I thought was good, and he was like, dude, what? You can't bring people down here? Like, this isn't in the contract or whatever. So it was like, you know when you get a job and they tell you how, like the boss tells you how everybody's supposed to do things, and then you meet everybody else and they're like, well, yeah, we just do it like this. So that's basically what had happened. They're like, oh, we don't actually go in there. We go over here. It's a lot cooler, right? And he was just like, what are you doing? Like,
we don't have insurance for this.
Yeah, like you can't just bring people in here.
Somebody trips in here, we're in trouble.
And so, they basically were just like, yeah, we don't want you to do these tours anymore, basically. And I was like, all right, fine. And so the joke of it was that, like 2 weeks after I got fired, I went to San Francisco and I was doing the show. And the host of the show introduced me, and they told everybody, he's like, oh, this guy, he's super Portlandia. And I was like, I don't even know what the fuck that means.
Right.
I don't want to be super Portlandia. But then I got on stage and told everybody about how I just got fired from my ghost tour job. And I was like, all right, maybe you got me. Maybe I am super Portlandia. I don't know. I'm going to buy a bicycle. I don't know. Grow a mustache. I'm not sure what to do next.
Well, here's the other thing that's good about your thing, too, about your podcast, is you all have free mushrooms, or it's not legalized drugs in Oregon? No? Yes? Is that a shady concept? Is that a bigger... Didn't it pass?
Yeah. They're not free.
I mean, not free. They're not illegal. That's what they
We're not just giving them out. Shout out to our sponsors, Big's Edibles, though. Which...
Free is coming.
No, it is. So they've legalized it for medical, for like therapeutic uses, psilocybin for therapeutic.
That's all we ever use it for.
Absolutely. Like we had a recent episode where people are using it for cluster headaches. Do you know about this? So there's cluster headaches. It's like the worst headache you can imagine.
It's like a migraine then, right?
Yeah, but way worse.
Really?
And you get them at night. And they're actually called suicide headaches because people are like, I can't do this anymore. And they end it because of it. For whatever reason, mushrooms fixes it. And like, it's relief for these people. And I have a comic who just 2 episodes ago, Brian Glowacki, who like found his thread on the internet. And then some dude like sent him mushrooms and was like, this will help. And he didn't read the instructions.
So he took all of them? Oh boy.
And hilarity ensues, but he hasn't had the headaches. He's like, I don't even like talking about it because I feel like it's like saying
it's like
Candyman.
A demon. You can bring it back. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, and which is funny because I'd never heard of it, and now the other day I got like a pain, and I was like, he passed it to me. I have cluster headaches now.
It's an attachment. It's a demonic attachment.
It is.
It's
funny.
A
haunted item. Yeah.
It is. Well, I have the. Of course, this is for, I have the microdose, the ground up. I don't think a microdose. And it's one of these things where I didn't realize how stressed out I was. Because, like, we're just sitting here like this until I started microdosing, like, just on the weekends. Because it took you don't realize how much stress is in your body until it's all gone.
Sure.
And that was probably the biggest, like, I was like, this is how we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like it was it's really microdosing is not you're not on a wild trip,
right.
But you're just like, that's what your soul's journey is.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be.
I feel the same way with like sensory deprivation. Like after you do like 90 minutes in a tank and you get out and you're like, God, like gravity is really pounding the shit out of us like all the time,
I haven't done that yet, and people always tell me, okay.
Yeah, see, that's the thing is like, I'm not like, not to offend anybody, but I'm not a super woo-woo kind of person.
You're pretty close, though.
But yeah, I'm adjacent, right? Like I do acupuncture. I do sensory deprivation. I do yoga. Like I'm spiritual. I meditate. Like all of these things. But it's like then there's like a very logical part of me that's like, I don't know, skeptical or and even doing ghost tours. Like for me as a comic, it's an hour of crowd work.
Yes, exactly.
I got strong, and I mean, part of it is just because every ghost tour, there's a woman who really wants to be there and the guy who got drug along. Mm-hmm. And if I could get him to have fun, like that was my goal every time, where it was like, if I can get him to where he's like having fun and is like, okay, I'm not just like rolling my eyes at everything this guy says, then I felt like I did a good job.
Yeah, and also you're one spirit guide away from being woo-woo. I'm not closed off to it. Well, you know what, too? And the skeptical part, to me, I had a joke. I used to say Webster's dictionary describes the skeptical as the asshole in the crowd, because you're not that, though. You're not that. I swear, I was on a show.
Talk to my wife. Like, before we make any
well, you know what?
declarations about who is and isn't.
So I was on a show as a psychic, and I never do these psychic skeptic shows because I've learned my lesson. And this is how it goes. The first lady comes on, and I go, okay, so I said something about, let's say you're a teacher. And she stops me and goes, I'm a teacher, right? Next guy comes up, and I did his numerology, and I was like, this year is all about love and home. You're going to be moving. And he goes, that's weird. My girlfriend just broke up with me. I moved 3 times this year. Okay? So they go to the skeptic and they go, what do you think? And he goes, nah, it was too vague. Everyone's a teacher.
What?
I know. And I was so stunned by how dumb that answer was that I couldn't react. Like I was literally like, I'd
be annoyed by that.
Yeah. So skeptic to me usually means someone who will not believe. But I will say this. See, you want to listen, you want to filter out, and you want to ask why. Well, that part doesn't seem right. Why would that be? And that's what, as a paranormal investigator, the details or the stuff I find out. Well, I'm way off. I don't have to defend myself to you.
We're fighting now. Are we fighting, Karen?
No, you're on the right side. That's why I was like, you're on this side. What am I talking about? But it's still in my head. I'll wake up in the middle of the night and go, I should have told that asshole everyone's not a teacher.
I was just talking to Rob about this, and it's the L'Esprit de Escalator. It's French, means the ghost of the stairs. And it's like it's the comic's dilemma, which is thinking of the perfect thing to say afterwards. And it comes from this play from France from the 1800s where a guy's he's in someone's like gallery, and he says something to him, and the guy's just so stunned that he's speechless. And then as he's walking down the stairs, he's like, I should have told that asshole that everyone's not a teacher, right? And because I was having a conversation with a guy about like job interviews, and he was like, I always think of the perfect thing to say afterwards. And then the L'Esprit, I'm not saying it right because I'm not French, but the escalator, right?
The escalator. I thought you were really talking about a set of stairs.
No.
It's funny too because, I did this the other day, and I swear, because I haven't been on the road doing crowd work, which last night my crowd work was actually pretty decent. It was pretty on point.
Yeah, it was fun.
But, the other time that happened was when my boyfriend, or my ex now, I swear to God, this is how slow my brain is moving because of COVID. He goes, he didn't tell me he had been seeing his ex, right? And I get it, and it's like on this moon, it's a full moon, and the lady, I'm watching the astrology online, and she goes, everything is about to be revealed. And I was like, oh, good, things are going to be revealed. So the next day he texts me, I've been seeing my ex, and I'm going with her instead of you, right? And my first reaction, not being on stage, ready with the good answers, was, well, you're a lovely person. I wish you the best.
You blew it!
then I went back an hour later, and all day he started getting these messages that got a little angrier each time. And then the final last
You're like, this isn't over. He hasn't blocked me yet. I'm going to keep hammering this.
I think it was to the fourth message. And I said, you're really, I was nothing but kind to you, and you lied to me. And that's not fair. That was my angry. I'm not good at that.
You showed him. Man, he thought twice after that, didn't he?
Here's the thing. I saw the little squiggly like he was typing.
Oh, okay.
And I blocked him so he didn't get his last word in. That's how I won that.
This is what it is. You say it. How do you...
Le Esprit de l'escalier. Yeah, I think it's close. I can't say it, but it's good. It's all right, man.
Is that funny?
Everyone at home, say it with me.
Staircase wit is what it translates to. French term used in English for the predicament of thinking of the perfect reply too late.
Yeah.
Isn't that great? Isn't it great to have like that it's there though? Like, you know what I mean? As a comic, you're always like when I do improv shows or whatever, like they'll put comics on improv shows just to make them and then like the next day I'll wake up and be like,
right, and I hate it.
Baby bok choy. Why didn't I say baby bok choy? Deadbeat dad bok choy. Where do all the baby bok choys come from?
You know what? I hate it. My acting teacher used to make us do improv.
Yeah.
And
sucks.
I hated it so much, and everybody would be like, ooh, who's going to go with Karen? She'd always match me with someone that would just open up with a butt fucking joke or something like where I was like, really? Can you be a little creative? And then they wouldn't go with the yes and they just start yelling about maxi pads, and I was like, I can't. Yeah. You're not even doing it right.
I went through class too, and there was one particular guy who was just not, and I remember I said that during we had to stop because I literally said, "Are you supporting your scene partner right now? That's literally what we're supposed to be doing, and you are not doing it."
Thank you.
Like, why are you saying that? Like, that is not, like, you're being argumentative. It's not. Which the only thing I got out of improv class literally was doing crowd work. It makes me not mean.
Well,
because my first instinct when somebody says something, even if I think it's funny, is to kind of bite, like be a little cutting, and or even heckle. Like if someone is like, nah, then my first instinct is to be like, oh, you are a fucking moron,
right?
And that might get a laugh, but it doesn't endear people to you, right?
And so then if you kind of turn it, and I always go, what's the matter, my friend? And I always call him my friend. And then they go, everyone turns like, yeah, what's the matter?
Yeah.
And then he's got and they'll never be funnier than us, even if it's back and forth 2 or 3 times. Sure. They'll never get it. But now I'm going to go back in time and tell my scene partner that he wasn't supporting me, and he was just telling dick jokes. And the crowd would laugh, and I would be like, just get me out of this.
Yeah.
But what else is funny? Because now that we're on, now that work's up, we're working again, this and that.
Yeah.
And my brain is getting faster, as not necessarily right now, but this happened at Target, or no, at Old Navy. I don't know where I was. I was at Albertsons, and my brain is working a little faster, and the guy is checking me out, and he goes, "Are you playing our Monopoly game?" And I go, "No, I don't gamble." And then I thought, what are you talking about? You too gamble. Why would you say that? Why did you feel challenged by this man's Monopoly game at Albertsons, and you just lied? And then I almost said, I'm lying. And then I was like, get out. Get out. Another thing that...
Take your potatoes and run, Karen.
Another thing should have been internal.
I don't gamble, sir. Like you took the moral high road. Where you're like, how dare you? Do I look like a degenerate to you? And then you should have walked over to the scratch machine and put like $50 and just kept looking back at him. Just pumping ones in the scratch ticket machine. Or even if they sell them, be like, hey, can I get $50 on the Powerball?
I don't gamble. What's wrong with you, 18-year-old checker? Oh, my God. Well, you are just so funny. And
you are so funny.
We're great.
We're going to get you on, and then, it's going to be great.
Awesome. Okay, Fear and Loathing in Tacoma. And
Yes.
I want you to spell your website for people because I am dyslexic.
So it's just my name. So Jeremiah
Okay.
Coughlan.
Oh.
Jeremiah Coughlan. I know.
Coughlan.
So many syllables.
All right.
When I was a kid and I went to school with all the Bryans and Mikes, and it was like, hey, let's learn about syllables. And then I was the only, we made a fucking chart, and I was the only one over here with 9 syllables in my whole name. And it's like, Brian Clark, Mike Jones,
Bob Steve,
Jeremiah James Coughlin. I'm just like, what the hell? Yeah, so Jeremiah Coughlin. It's a mouthful,
but it's not
good.
But my friend is C, and I'm dyslexic. Coughl. Wait, maybe I'm making it up.
L-I-N is most people are I-N.
Coughlan is you.
So I'm Coughlan, and then I'm doing shows in Spokane in 2 weeks, and
Coughlan in Spokane.
Cauflon is how they put it on. I'm like, okay, yeah, Coughlan. Okay, I don't care.
Rontowski. No one ever.
The best is when they call and say, "Can I speak to Jeremiah Coughlin?" Because there's an H in it. I'm like, Coughlin. Coughlin?
We're making Cougaloff bread.
Yeah, my Cougaholic. Yeah.
All right,
Coughlin.
All right, everyone, listen. Fear and Loathing in Tacoma, and I will let you all know when I'm on it too. And so nice. Thank you for stopping by. And you can get back to your MMA fights. And Courage is out like a light.
He's done.
And everyone, thanks for listening. I hope you're coming to see me in Cape Cod. I'm going to try, and if you can't make it to Cape Cod, I'm going to try and live screen, right? Stream. Watch for the email. Sign up for my e-list at karenrontowski.com. I'm going to try and live stream the psychic stand-up part of the show. I haven't picked what night I'm going to do it, but we'll do that on Facebook where I read tarot for the crowd, and maybe we'll go into the audience. So thanks to Mike at Owner Rising Media, and I will see you all next week.